Welcome, everyone. It is Wednesday, and that means we have Dr. Jerome here with us for the Neuro Wednesday segment where we talk about neuroscience, fight or flight response, and how we can improve our impulses whilst we're trading and how we can replace them with something better. Dr. Jerome, welcome. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Coach Deeyana. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? I'm doing amazing on my side. Not sunny today. It's raining, unlike last week, but still doing amazing. I'm re-uploading the slides because for some reasons only 2 slides have been uploaded, so I'm adding it back.
Okay, so when they're ready, we can begin. But maybe whilst we're waiting for them to upload, do we want to take some questions from people?
Sure.
So obviously we've been doing this for a few weeks now. We are getting a playlist on YouTube that will be dedicated just to Neuro Wednesdays. I think Danielle has kindly already started working on that. Nick Strain says something not related to neuroscience. He's saying, how do I purchase level 2 data on the new dashboard? You need to go into your billing settings, and then there will be one of the buttons that says add level 2 data. And that's how we get level 2. Okay, so do we have
I
the
don't.
slides?
Yeah,
No?
for some reasons it did the same. So I changed from PowerPoint to PDF, and now it should
Okay.
be no problem.
All right. So
Yes. How has been everybody doing? Your last week, have you applied some of our Neuro Wednesdays concepts? Have you improved? Have you felt some changes? Have you felt some transformation? Have you failed? Have you succeeded? What happened? Do you have any questions?
yeah, and look, even if you fail, you need to share with us, and then we kind of give you the steps how to maybe modify things, because we're all different, and not everyone is going to respond to the same exercises, same visualizations the same way, because we all have different life experiences, obviously. Paul H also wants Nick Strays to know that market data monthly subscription is $39. Thank you for that, Paul. Very good to see you.
Well,
Yes, I see my sister is in the room as well. She's probably doing some more of her crocheting. She does these really like cute animals that are crocheted. It's like so beautiful. I'm terrible with arts and crafts, but she seems to be very, very arty. So yeah. All right.
good.
We have the slides. Slides are up and
Yes,
running.
here they
Take us
are.
in, Dr. Jerome.
So I reduced by half the number from last week. Okay, so we should be good. But I have a long visualization in case of we got some time. So if we got some time, I bet we could and hope we'll do it if you would like. So it's a visualization focused on like performance, and if if you liked it, if it made some positive effect or at least sparkled something in you, you can replay it, and it could be a place, a moment, a segment you can reach to reprocess events. So whether they are trading events or life events, you can just like go back there, focus, realign yourself in the present moment, face back the events and reprocess your reaction to these events. How did you think? How did you feel? What was the inner emotion, the feeling about the event? Do you have the same reaction afterwards or not? So if you want, and if we have time, we'll do it.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions here. One is a question, the other one is more of a statement. Christian says, hi, Dr. Jerome. I'm new to this segment. I've been too rigid in my systematic strategy and struggle to adapt real time to what the market tells me.
Hello, Christian. Thank you for this question. So what does being too rigid in your systematic strategy means? Because for me and for Coach Deeyana, I bet as well, keeping your strategy systematic is the way to go, right? This is the way. So if you feel you're being too, and correct me if, or add any elements, please, Coach Deeyana. So if you feel you're being too rigid, either you feel discipline is a pain or a weight, it feels heavy, and if it does so, we invite you to replay the session of last week and 2 weeks ago, because we spoke about it. We mentioned a lot about these topics, so that could help you. And perhaps ask about your perception about why you think it's rigid, why you think your strategy is systematic. Perhaps you don't like your strategy, but you're like, okay, I'm going to follow it. So perhaps this is not the exact way. You need to have a plan you're aligned with, and you follow the plan. So don't know if it helps, but yeah, Coach Deeyana, what would you add?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go to the data science part of things. So when you say too rigid, does that mean that you are demanding prices from only, like, let's say, one single level for one trade, and then when you don't get that, you don't know how to get back in? Because that's one problem. And then there's another problem where you don't have enough hypotheses for the ever-changing market conditions. We're talking intraday trading, which is probably one of the most difficult ways to trade because it's so sensitive to any inconsistencies that you might have. And maybe you feel like you're missing out if the system doesn't show you have a trade, and then you have to wait a few days. Now, I would argue that that's probably not an intraday trading system. So I don't know which one of those is. But if you're finding yourself in anything that I am saying here, then please share so that we can maybe break it down a little bit more. I don't think it's necessarily a mental issue. I think it's probably more a strategy issue in your case. But let me guess, Christian, you're probably like an engineer or something, where you think that A plus B should equal C. Now, you can be systematic, but just know that there always needs to be a little bit of wiggle room whenever we're talking levels. Whenever I say a level, it's always more a zone around that level rather than like, oh, that's to get in here, do or die. I have like a 35 to 50 tick zones where I might look for my setups to play out. So that's still systematic, but it still allows for a little bit of flexibility. So hopefully that helps. All right. And the second one is, I would argue, a bit of a psychological issue. Robert P says, I've been busting a few things up in the kitchen after bad trades, but that's better than last week. There's some anger
All
issues
right.
there. Yeah, take it
We all
away.
got our way to express.
Yeah.
Some are more expensive than others.
Yeah, breaking things around the house after bad trades is not necessarily a good thing long term. Like Jerome says, it might get a bit expensive. I would say that that's probably frustration when the trades don't work out for you. You should probably go back to journaling and data collection rather than breaking things. It might be a little bit more useful. At least it was for me.
Exactly. Somebody asked Shorebon, what's your view at potential in using the system? It's worth nothing that the term LAN can also refer to likelihood approximation networks, a type of neural network used in cognitive science for fast inference. Sorry, I understand what's reading, but I don't understand the question. Do you?
Um,
And that is
what
like
is my
looking
view
at
and
this as
potential
trading.
in using the system? So would be good to know the system as in trading system of approaching trading with neuroscience. Like what? Yeah, I don't really
Yeah, could
get
you please
the question.
specify the question so that could help us? But anyway,
Yeah,
let's
let's
start
crack on. Yeah.
before this intro, as always. So today we'll speak about very few concepts. So the first one is mental readiness. Okay, mental readiness is a myth. Forget about trading. You don't need to be ready about. You don't need to be mentally ready to achieve something. You don't need to be mentally ready to go to university. You don't need to be mentally ready to succeed or to compete at a competition or a ranking event. You don't need to be mentally ready to go talk to a girl or a guy. Like these are mental barriers, limits, right? So you don't and you won't wake up one day ready. You shape readiness through a process. And athletes and musicians, again, we always take these examples with pride because they express beautifully what happens in the brain. We know that very well, right? So one of the biggest myth in trading is that readiness is a feeling. Perhaps it's not expressed this way, but that's how I envision it. So professionals, they don't wait to feel prepared. They either don't feel prepared or feel prepared. But if they don't feel prepared, they build rituals, routines that create internal conditions to be aligned for execution. And then once you have the internal conditions, you don't need to create them, you need to gather them, right? It's like a shift. You put on and off a shift. So readiness is the result of systems, not moods. Your mood will influence your perception of readiness, but that will not define it. Remember, motivation is one of the most ephemeral emotion. Okay, you can be very much motivated, and right after, the minute after, it can collapse, and vice versa. So whether you're motivated or not, this will not define your readiness, right? So each morning, your body and brain, they wake up and they show up slightly different, okay, from yesterday. The question is, do you have a ritual? Do you have a routine that brings you into alignment? Or do you have a ritual, a routine that brings you into distraction? And I mentioned distraction with purpose because at some point in our lives, and I have a couple habits validating that as well. We all have routines or habits. We don't know they are bad, right? And once we get aware, once we develop recognition and oversight about these habits, systems, patterns, networks being bad for us, behaviors, then we want to modify them, change them or not. But if you don't have a ritual that brings you into alignment with purpose, know that most probably your behavioral patterns are not perhaps destructive, but they are not constructive. So think about that. This is a not complex but very deep concept, which means if you don't have anything to recalibrate, realign you every morning, that means you might have indirectly some pattern, behavioral process and pattern, structural patterns throughout your day from morning to evening that leads you perhaps not to destruction, but not construction or not uh, structured construction. It can be disorganized, and then that leads to confusion, that leads to choppiness in motivation. Have you ever felt like motivated and unmotivated, motivated, unmotivated, like in a month, and you're like, yeah, today I'm gonna do it. Forget about trading. I'm gonna do it, and 2 days later you're like, hey, enough, and you need 2 days of break. And this is because we are not mentally ready, because we don't have a ritual that brings us back. It's a day-to-day process, every day, every single day. It's like an athlete working out. It's like a musician training. It's like a very high responsibility work, having to do diligently, let's say, a single task for every day. And this is very important. This is part of discipline as well, but this is why most people don't succeed, because they don't build the discipline and the consistency into getting and having a ritual for them every single day. And let's say you don't do it every single day. Okay, how many times do you do it every week? Once, twice, thrice, 4 times, etc. What do you think about mental readiness, Coach Deeyana?
I think that when it comes to feeling ready, that probably won't prepare you for everything that the market can throw at you at that day. Because you can feel ready, but then when the first couple of trades don't go according to plan, that's usually how the complete tilt begins, right? You're like, what's going on? And then you start getting annoyed. And then some people throw things and break things in the kitchen. But motivation is not going to help you achieve anything. We cannot rely on motivation to feel ready. This is ultimately, an activity that is, to me, more like a detective looking for clues of what's happening. And if I'm unsuccessful in the first 2 times, it just means that I need to either look on the larger time frames for some more clearer picture, or maybe on a range bound day look into a very small time frame to find context. So it's down to situational awareness. But to me, that has nothing to do really with the readiness. But it does have a lot with experience and experiential data. Have you seen this play out before? How did it go last time? What did you do last time that worked? What did you do last time that didn't work? So I think that journaling is maybe done a little bit wrong. It should be done in two sections. One section should be about your emotional state and how you feel impulse wise and your mental triggers, what causes you to go on tilt, what causes you to get frustrated. And then the other side is, am I doing things right from a numbers perspective and the plan? So am I oversized? Did the trade work, but because I ran out of equity on the day, I didn't manage to take advantage of it? Very different problem, right? Did the level completely break down, and were you outright wrong? So putting all of that together, I think would be a lot more useful than relying on any sort of motivation to get you ready. We're never really ready. And trading is not a linear process, right? You have up days, you have up weeks, you have down weeks, down days. You have to be okay with that. But as long as the losses are decently controlled, no single day should derail your account entirely. Okay. There are times when people go through big drawdowns, 3 months, 6 months, and then you're so low in equity that you might as well start again. But that's maybe a market state change, and you haven't changed with it. Again, nothing to do with motivation and readiness. It's to do with the market state and maybe lack of experience in that environment. So what do you do then? We have to have some pretty robust systems and quite sophisticated ways of dealing with all of this. It requires extreme emotional resilience. And I find that men in particular, because you're taught to not be emotional or to hide emotions en masse, socially, it's not acceptable to cry. I mean, maybe this newer generation that's like coming up now is a little bit different, but like my generation, I'm the end of Generation X. Men were taught to be strong men, and I think because of that, women are maybe a little better equipped when emotions hit them, because we don't hide them. We tend to air it all out, just cry if you want to cry. But ultimately, you get to, because crying activates the rest and digest parasympathetic system, right? So that helps to realign you, so to speak. And then where do you fit in motivation there? Like, you do a few good trades, you get ultra motivated. What does that do? Makes you overtrade and makes you mess up the account. Nearly swore there. So I'm gonna try and censor myself here. But yeah, so motivation is just terrible for trading, in my opinion. I would prefer if we're just like not emotional at all, and we are borderline psychopaths where you don't care whether the trade loses or wins, and you just keep going regardless of what happens, while sticking to either the number of trades or the data loss limit, or any kind of where to stop system on the day. If you don't have those breaks in place, I feel that motivation, readiness, and all of it just goes right out the window. Is that your experience as well, or are some of us a little bit more twitchy than others?
Thank you for this beautiful explanation. I think there's a quiproquo in my explanation. So mental readiness is everything you explained, but in your explanation, readiness is a bad thing. So I might have misexpressed what readiness is. So what I wanted to explain is being ready is what you said. If trades don't go your way, whatever happens, like being ready is being present, being calm, being like having a plan, being a professional trader. That's being readiness, but it's the total opposite of motivation. So of course, like my saying is yours. So motivation, yeah, might lead to a bad outcome. Sorry, in trading, but you should be ready in the sense of you should be ready to be shaken out. You should be ready to face yourself. You should be ready to feel bad, to think bad. You should be ready to challenge yourself. Like these are all the things englobing like mental readiness. I don't know if it makes more sense.
Yeah, Chad has has a comment here. Women don't handle their emotions better. I'm not talking about all women, okay? I'm talking about those of us who choose to go into this line of work. It's not your everyday, you know, be in the kitchen, bear children, and be submissive to the man. We are generally a little different from the majority of the population. Typically, we are more aligned with male ambition than with female ambition. And you will find that women traders tend to control their emotions better. So that's not me making things up. It is actually proven statistically that most women in trading generally are totally okay with risk, whereas that's not the normal state of women mindset, right? A lot of women are risk averse, very risk averse, which is why most of them never go into trading. They don't go into investments. They don't go into high flying careers like science, medicine, even though there are a few that do. And they're typically very ambitious and very good at what they do. So, yeah. And Madman is saying, why are Gen X females diminishing? Because we're getting old. That's yeah.
Lido and John, you have nice comments. John, I don't recognize this name. Perhaps he's been here. I'm a climber as well, Jerome, and perhaps on learning from a fellow climber. Thank you to both. Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate that. So let us go to Lido first. So Lido, I recognize you. You've been here for a long time. So Lido blew up 2 combines yesterday. After over a week of hard work, grinding on them, it's the feeling of being rushed to finish that messes him up, and he wants to hurry up and hit the profit target. It starts to stresses him out that it's taking so long. And I put the quote, he didn't. So he says he typically does great, making 300-400s every day on the average, some days over 600, some days over 1,000. But that the feeling that like it's taking forever creeps on him and makes him stick around longer. So I'm taking time here because it might and would help a lot of people. So Lido, basically last week we've been through this precise topic. So if you watch your monthly performance, for example, not the month of May, but an average monthly average performance, how many times are you able to be funded? How many times are you able to get a payout if you're able to be funded? If this number is below 1, then you should not and you must not think about time at all, because you're doing well. And then after 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days, you get impatient. But where does this impatience come from? It comes from the urge of wanting to win, because you're winning in the sim level, at the sim challenge level, and you're like, okay, I'm doing very well. Now I want to finish that. I want to get funded. I want to reproduce my performance with real money. I mean, not real money, still sim, but money with that could potentially lead me to a payout. That would be real money. So that's what happens in your brain. But you need to build the safeguards we share with you every Neuro Wednesdays to be able to tell yourself, okay, on average, I'm doing 300-400, sometimes 6, sometimes 1,000. Okay, why do I need to do more? I don't need to do more. But if somehow, somewhere, at some point, you tell yourself, okay, today I'm going to do 1,500 instead of 800, then this is your choice. This is your intention. This doesn't come from impatience. It comes from when you woke up, your ritual was damaged. It was misstructured. You missed a segment in your ritual or the whole ritual, and this part in your ritual helps you to stick to your daily profit target or personal daily loss limit. And every single day you need to remind it to yourself, because every single day you will have your voices telling you, remember the dopamine bursts. When you win, your body and brain have a dopamine inflow burst. So you're like, wow, it feels so good. When it feels good, what do we want? We want more, right? You want to get more because it feels good. So if you don't have these reflexes, these strong inner reflexes telling you, okay, yeah, I get you, brain. I get you, Barry. You want more dopamine, but chill down, sit down, Barry, and let me lock myself out and get out. And you live out with profit. And the more you will cultivate this, the more successful you will be in your ability to be rigorous and disciplined. So lead office is not bad at all. If you are able to, the only, and it's hard enough, the only thing you have to do is reproduce your performance. Yet keep in mind, every single day you need to stick to your plan, your discipline, your strength, your resilience, and your ritual. Tell yourself, okay, on average I'm doing 400, then do 400. If you get a 50K challenge in 8 days, you'll be funded on average, okay, from 8 to 10 days. So why do you need to rush? Why do you need to tell yourself, I want to get funded in 10 days instead of 15, or in 5 days instead of 10? That in the end, at the end of the month, you're no funded, right? You are no funded. So the goal of us is not to tell you, oh, you're no funded, you did a mistake. No, our goal is to help you realize that you're doing something good, until your brain somehow is giving you the wrong voice, the emotional brain. And then you're like, oh, I want to trade and I want to win another one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the largest problem, I think, is comes back to the fact that everybody wants to be funded, and then they mess it up, and then they want to get back to it really quickly. I call this the prop trading examination fatigue, where you've been funded and you've been through the loop so many times, and you're doing your like 50th combine, and you're like, oh, come on already. And this is where I think these new programs of straight to funded are a little misleading, because they are largely geared towards traders who want to rush. Very few traders who go into them are ready to be funded for real, right? Because they don't have the consistency. So they do the same stupid stuff that they did at the evaluation level, where you can reset a million times. Then they go, oh, let me just do that straight to funded, because then I skip the whole process of evaluation. Like, who needs to evaluate me? Who are you to evaluate me? Well, I would only say to those kind of people, if you are not able to keep a funded account for longer than 2 days a week, 2 weeks, something is not right yet. It's not like, oh yeah, you never get there. It's just that at this point, there is something that you're doing, whether with your mental triggers or your strategy or both, that is preventing you from trading profitably enough, but also consistently enough to maintain an account. So maybe there's a bankroll management problem. Maybe you are trading with too much size in the beginning, and you're not growing the account the way you should be growing it. Because I know that the industry has moved on to this big board, and leader live leaderboard, and live this. It's great, but I do think that it's a little bit damaging to certain types of traders. People who are perfectly consistent and can make 200 to 400 per day, they lose themselves in the numbers. They really do. They look at somebody and say, wow, this guy just made 40 grand in a day. But then you hear them, talk. I'm not going to name any names, but we frequently hear, oh yeah, I had a very big day, but then on the next day or the next week, I drew down like 50% of the account in one day, not a payout, but an actual drawdown. Is that, like, for me, that's not the kind of trader that I want to be. I don't want to derail everything in one day just because I managed to score like a couple of big days. It's like the worst thing to do, because your risk of ruin is sky high. If you're going to risk 50% of your account in one day, think long term. How much are you going to last? How long are you going to last if the same thing repeats tomorrow and you don't get the perfect setup that you're after tomorrow? You're going to blow the account, right? Isn't it better to maybe use 10% of the account to look at things in 5 days, 10 days, a month, 3-month timeframes? And let's get off the clouds here and into some reality. People, like, I've worked in IT recruitment. I even had an IT recruitment agency. People who are applying for jobs that are paying you $400 a day, that's considered one of the top jobs that you can score, because over a year, you effectively get to a point where you're making probably 80 to 100,000 a year. That's good living, right? Now in trading, we have to consider that not all of that will be profits, right? It will be usually maybe 50% of whatever you have should stay as, bankroll and, just some money to trade with. So it's a little different, but those big numbers that we're seeing, people want to rush them. And yet when you hear some of the other people who have managed to maintain those live accounts, typically they have at least 2 years experience, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years of experience in the markets. It didn't come overnight for them. It's just that you are maybe seeing their chapter 12 while you're on your chapter 2. It's not the same. And as a musician, I went through the whole college, university, and in that environment, you have students that are at a particular level, and then you have students that are at a higher level, and everybody knows their pecking order. So in that environment, you have to know who's who. But it's a bitter pill to swallow, because you want to be the top dog. Everybody wants to be the top dog, right? We want to be like top 10 on the big board. Everybody. Is that the right thing for you? And is that the true goal? Is that your why? Are you doing this to be on the leaderboards that frankly has some statistical issues? Whenever I look at the leaderboards, they're mixing and matching like XFA profits with live profits. And it's like, it's not the same. So if I was doing the leaderboard myself, I would start the measure from zero. It's like, great, you started the balance at this much money, but then let's have another column where it tells you how much they made since they've been live. It would be a very different story, I promise you. But everybody's, pushing the all 5 XFAs that they had in the beginning. It's like, oh, that's my big balance. Yeah, it is, but it's not the profits that you made in the live environment. So please keep in mind that when you're watching things on YouTube and stuff, it's mainly tradertainment, and take it with a pinch of salt, but don't let it affect you. You can use it to motivate yourself for sure, but don't push past your chapter 2 to jump to chapter 12, because it's not going to happen that quickly. And it's probably just going to extend the period that it takes you to get there, if that makes sense.
Completely for me, of course.
Right.
So we come to the mental loads, what we call the invisible mental loads, especially decision fatigue. We'll go to it right after, and I think it's a good interest for you, Coach Deeyana.
Yes.
So it doesn't always look like sleepiness. We mentioned it last week, but we're going a bit deeper into it today. The brain doesn't care where the load comes from, okay? It only knows when it's full. That's the only thing the brain cares about and reacts from. So loading can show up in hesitation, second guessing, overanalyzing, or rushing, for example, in trading. So we got a lot of, I often mention it as underlying stream, okay? Your underlying mental stream, inner stream, and that's what we call it in mindfulness. So we can call them as well background processes. So let's say finances, relationships, health concerns, professional concerns as well. They drain your cognitive energy, your cognitive bandwidth. Even if we don't think they are active, or even if you don't know they are active or even here, they overload you. And this cognitive overload, they mimic impulsivity and FOMO, because you have a tension, okay? You don't necessarily know this tension is right here. You think it's deep down, but it's perhaps at the surface, and your body will express it, and it will express it physiologically. So that could mean clicking. That could mean not being able to be patient enough. When you see a move, you're like, oh, it's going to go up, but my entry is not here. I'm waiting for a pullback and a retest. That's my plan. I'm waiting for a pullback and a retest. You don't get the pullback, you get a huge momentum up. You're like, damn, it's breaking out. I want to go in. You're like, I'm holding my hand, and then for some reason, you click. You click, it's a fake out. It's not a breakout, so it's a false breakout. It runs down to the low of the range. You're like, oh, It was a fake out, and now it's breaking down to the downside. And what do? You let emotions and frustration overcome, and then you're short. But perhaps the first move was what we could call an engineered liquidity. The downside would be a fake out, and then you have your move back up. But you got trapped. You got trapped not by the market, you got trapped by your emotions. Because the market didn't tell you to click, the market didn't induce FOMO. You get the same market. If D, I, and you watch at the same chart, we won't feel FOMO most probably, but would you? And if you do, that doesn't come from the chart, that comes from within, right? So that's what where the point is. So you think it's bad discipline, where most of the time it not all the time, but it's actually mental load. And we mentioned it. We trade from the past, not necessarily a very old past, but sometimes we trade the emotions. Yesterday's trade let us in, and we could summarize mathematically. Mental load is the multiplication of the tasks, singular or plural, multiplied by the emotional weight. So when you understand that, and we mentioned it a lot of time, I mentioned it in therapy as well, in the context of therapy, every single thought is connected to an emotional weight, okay? And when you lower the emotional weight, you have a clearer flow, a clearer stream. And that's what we teach in therapy, how to lower, reduce the heaviness of this emotional component.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've struggled with. In the beginning of TopstepTV, we used to have some really long days. Like, I obviously trade London, but then I used to be on fast markets for 3 hours, and then later on I had the London session as this stream. And some days, if I didn't rest in between, I would be working for like 12 hours a day. And I rarely do that if I'm not, doing streams and stuff. I would be trading maybe actively like 2-3 hours per day. And then suddenly I'm trading, effectively looking at the entire London session, then looking at the entire New York session. And I got to a point where mentally I was feeling that exhaustion. And I found that my focus, by the time I would get to just like 3 p.m. my time or 4 p.m. your time, that's like 9 a.m. Central, I would be done. And we now know that focus is an exhaustible resource. Mental concentration takes energy. And in fact, brain is a very expensive organ. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's one of the most expensive organs in our body. So if you're overthinking, or if you're just thinking and you're, engaging that rational side, but unfortunately trading also needs the creativity to it as well. It's like probably one of the toughest things ever, because it requires enough flexibility, but also enough rigidness to not go off the rails. And that is difficult. Just because we're clicking buttons, it doesn't mean that this is an easy activity. Whole bunch of stuff happens up in our heads, and that means you might not feel tired, but your decision-making processes just go down the pan. It's like, 2 hours, 3 hours in, and you're just like, what am I doing? Muppet moments back to back.
Exactly. Yeah, so you experienced it, so you can feel it and reflect from it. So yeah, mental loads, I consciously know when, for example, on Monday, I had a lot during the morning. I had a lot of administrative mental loads. I had a bunch of emails, like a lot of stuff to deal with. And I looked at myself and I said, okay, today is a very heavy mental loaded day. And it's the first day of June. I don't want to wreck off. I don't want to like make mistakes, etc. And I deliberately waited hours, 4 or 5 hours to cool down, and then I went back to trading and got successful. But I almost instantly recognized that I wasn't in the well state to trade in, and avoided making mistakes. So this is very important.
That's your superpower. You have so much knowledge around this that you can recognize when things are happening inside you. I have a lot of knowledge at this point, but it took me a long, long time to develop those kind of coping mechanisms.
I mean, thank you. It's part of it is knowledge, but most of it is practice. Repetition,
Yeah.
repetition,
Yeah.
repetition. So perhaps I've practiced it a bit more, but it's like I will always say it. I didn't rediscover hot water. That's what we say in
Yeah.
French. So I mean, it's a simple practice, but yes, it's very hard. It's very, very hard. It's like growing up a bamboo. Okay, so to grow up bamboos, I might be wrong, but more or less it's gonna be right. Okay, so if anybody is a bamboo specialist, please correct me. But you need to water every single day your bamboo for something like 2 years. At least during a year it doesn't grow up. During the second year it grows up like 1 centimeter a day or something like that. And if you miss a single watering during this first 2 years window, it resets the whole growing process. Okay, so you need to be extremely disciplined. And after the 2 years, then every single day it grows from 5 to 20 centimeters. So it's like you plant the seed, and 2 years onward you're gonna crop, right? But if you miss one single day, you're not gonna crop, you're gonna reset, so you're not gonna have the rewards. But once you have the reward, it's like exponential. And trading is the same. It's like you work, you plant the seed, you water it, you water it, you water it, and someday, boom, it grows up.
Yeah.
And it grows up very fast.
Yeah. So there's a comment from Lido. He says, if I can 100% stick to my rules, I will be the master Yoda of trading. So I do have the baby Yoda over there, the Grogu Mandalorian on my
Grogu,
window.
whoa, I know
Yes,
Grogu.
if you can
Whoa.
see it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
here's the thing. I think the chase for perfection in rule following is not really how you get there. There's no perfection. There's absolutely no perfection in trading. You will make mistakes. But if your system doesn't allow you to make mistakes, that's where the problem begins. So, Lido, I would urge you to aim to be just 60% rule follower. 60%. You don't have to hit 100%. Hell, even 50% of rule followed will improve wherever you are at the moment. But allow yourself to make the mistakes and still stay alive. That's my approach to coaching. It's like it's okay to make a mistake as long as you stop on time and you don't just go fully off the wall. That's where the risk systems of Topstep are quite invaluable. Paul H mentioned it earlier. He said, thank you for the tip of locking yourself out, locking out your risk settings at Globex so that the next day when you come to trade, you are not in temptation to change your loss limits or trade limits or release the minis because you got yourself into drawdown and you want to make it back. Like, lock out your settings. That will help with that part. But don't seek perfection. Seek to be okay. Now you will notice that most of us who have reached a certain level in trading, apart from a few sort of, I would say they're more entertainers than traders, but okay, most traders who do this very seriously. None of us will ever say, I'm the best trader in the world. I am the number one trader. No, we say, I'm not the best trader, but I do okay. And you will notice that throughout most of the people who have been in the industry professionally in one capacity or the other. That's the thing they say. So none of us are like, I am the wizard. And why? Because we've been doing this long enough to know that there is no such thing. You will always have periods of drawdown. You will always have periods of struggling because the market state is doing something weird. And then you will always also have the adjustment period while you're learning what they're trying to do. Sure, there are systems that, like order flow, gamma exposure, you can get a little bit more behind the scenes to understand exactly why things are happening at a particular level. But ultimately, you cannot get away from the fact that drawdowns and great periods are just the nature of trading. And you have to accept that. If you can't accept that, then there's a bigger issue you need to work on. It's a huge, huge thing.
Beautiful. Thank you. So let's
Yeah.
go to decision fatigue then. So your first decision is your sharpest. And if you've been with us, and if you've not, let's refresh it. Usually our first decision, our first impulse is automatic. It comes from our automatism, right? So we have difficulties like controlling this first impulse, but we can always control or re-guide the second one. So your first decision is your sharpest because it's the sort of pure expression of your inner structure, right? But your 30th decision is your foggiest because you, you used a lot of mental capital and energy, right? So each and every trade idea, strategy tweak, hesitation, every time you fight versus yourself, this quietly and slowly burns glucose and willpower. And remember, the only food of the brain is glucose. So when you burn it, so it's not sugar, okay, it's glucose. uh, the more you burn it, the less energy you have, and the more you think, the less energy you have, the more glucose you burn and ATP you reduce. And traders often assume they are undisciplined. And today, some topics are related to that. Everything is not related and doesn't not have to be related to discipline. So you think you're undisciplined by the end of the session, but in reality, you're probably just depleted. You've consumed more mental capital than what you should or what you are used to, and you stayed in front of the charts, right behind the charts. So you don't have the same. It's like usually if you train physically for 2 hours, what do you think is going to happen if you train for 4 hours? Do you think the third and fourth hour will be the same as your first and second? No, definitely not, because you don't have the same energy capital. And mental capital is exactly the same as physical capital, physical energy. And a nice way of putting it mathematically is performance is the relation, like the multiplication between energy and clarity. Of course, there's a lot of other things like in performance, but the more energy you have and the more clear you are, the more likely you are to have a high performance. And again, I joined this to what Coach Deeyana mentioned previously. You should not and you must not seek for performance. Okay, performance is a byproduct of any process, and money is a byproduct of performance. So, what you should focus on is your energy and your clarity, your state, because decision fatigue erodes both. Both will go down. And if both go down, your performance will go down, whatever the process is. Remember, you trade from a state, we trade from the mind. This is where you react. This is where you make your decisions from. This is where you tell to your hand, click or not click. Okay? So if this is unclear, your execution could be unclear as well. So the PFC, the prefrontal cortex, tires quickly after, and we mentioned previously, after approximately 2 hours of focused cognition, your decision quality drops sharply and faster than what you can even think about. Every 20 minutes, we get attention breakdowns. We mentioned it. So every 20 minutes, you need to reset, reboost your attention. But after 2 hours of focused cognition, your mental capacity for cognition is really lowered. And that leads to huge decision fatigue. And when yeah, just finishing this slide because this is together. So the PFC loses efficiency again with each additional task. So let's say you start the decision fatigue. Once the decision fatigue is started, then it becomes exponential, especially when decisions are emotionally loaded. And that's what we spoke about previously, right? Trading is like emotionally loaded times 100 or times 1,000,000. So when that energy is reduced, is depleted, when you don't have it anymore almost, you revert to default mode, DMN, default mode network, what we mentioned previously, versus the task positive network, TPN. So when you are in DMN, you overtrade, you freeze, you revenge trade, you self-sabotage. And this again leads to decision fatigue. Like this is a vicious cycle, right? So one great thing will be to, for example, pre-plan, let's say 80% of your session, like at least perhaps 100% would put some pressure on your mind. So that's why we advise 80%. So entry zones, conditions, and invalidation, be aware of whatever could happen, and be like, okay, I'm ready for that, and ready to manage myself, and go with the flow. So yeah, that's for decision fatigue. You're muted, I think.
Oh yeah, sorry about
Yeah.
that. So I'm just going to share what Bruno shared with us here, because we mentioned Mandalorian, Yoda, Grogu. So let me just do this. So he mentioned Yoda. We're talking about mental exhaustion and fatigue. Now, if you've watched Mandalorian, this is Grogu doing his thing to like repel the enemies and stuff. What does he do right after? He falls to sleep. He falls asleep, right? And he's asleep for like a very, very long period. Why? And all he's doing there is just sitting and using his brain and the force to do this. And you have to look at yourself in the same way. The longer you sit at the screen, you're going to be like Grogu, right? You're going to be like so exhausted by the end of it that your brain isn't working, and the only thing that you can do is go do something else or rest. Just switch your mind up so that you're not so into the charts. There's life beyond the charts, and knowing when to stop is going to serve you better than going to see the strategy and trying another thing and trying another trade. Just relax and move away from the charts. Somebody says, I touched grass. I hated it. That's always quite funny. You don't have to touch grass. There is a grounding thing that happens with when we're in touch with the earth, but you don't have to do that. You can go to the gym. You can crochet like my sister. You can do a whole bunch of other things. Whatever you enjoy that is not connected to trading. You go cook. Anything to keep you away from the charts. People have developed so many skills whilst waiting on trading setups or learning how to trade. So don't get so locked in that you can't even think at the end of the day. It's not going to serve you as well. Right, let's get back to the slides.
Beautiful. Thank you for this perfect example.
That's Bruno.
Yeah. So basically, you can pre-plan a lot of your session. You can reduce your menu, like fewer charts, fewer strategies, less inner noise. When you try to focus on a lot of elements, you miss what's in front of you, right? And then you should do an end of day audit. Like, of course, we ask ourselves a lot of questions, but if you want to add two of them, that could be which of today's decisions were worth the energy? I mean, what am I proud of having spent today as energy? Which ones were just like illusion, let's say clutter, And every energy leak becomes a clarity leak. When you know where you leak energy from, you can patch it, sort of, right? And so you can stop the leak, and then that's how you can improve. So basically, traders often try to compensate. What I've noticed is we often try, this is a basic brain process, okay? This has nothing to do with your personality or self-image or self-trust or whatever. This is a natural process, but once you understand it, once you understand, okay, Barry, the brain is acting this way, I'm gonna deal with Barry. So traders and humans, we often try low clarity with high effort. So we think we'll compensate it. People feel discipline is heavy because it requires effort. And the result is you put more force, more pressure, and less accuracy, less precision. It's more about calibration rather than compensation. And calibration means listening to your internal system and adjusting inputs accordingly. So if you feel and you're aware about being in low clarity state, you lower trade size or you don't trade. Low focus, increase structure. You need more structure, more data. you have low confidence, then reduce time frames, increase your rules, tighten them. Like if you think about, oh, I'm gonna enter at 21,658, then enter at 21,658. Don't enter at 21,659, let's say. Tighten your rules, and then you'll see with time how it helps you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, sorry, do you want to add anything
No,
about
no, no. Keep going.
Because we don't have a lot of slides, so we can take like time to comment on it. And we mentioned it a lot of time. Neutral is like the new alpha. Neutrality is very important in trading. And how do you return to neutral? I mean, how do, like, what's about the return to neutral? The greatest skill isn't entry or exit. It's internal reset. Like Grogu, right? He puts himself in Super Saiyan 12 and then he sleeps. He resets. He returns to neutral.
Yeah.
And the best performers, athletes, traders, they don't just bounce back. They return to baseline fast, right? And the perfect example is athletes, is high sport performance, physical performance for me. Neutral doesn't mean indifferent. It means like getting back to steadiness, being present and hooked and linked, independent from outcome. What would you relate to returning to neutral in music? Because in sport, I would relate it very, very easily, but in music, not sure about that.
Yeah, in music, it depends on the situation. If you are messing up, then obviously it's difficult to change that because you're constantly stressed out that something's gonna go wrong and people are gonna boo at you or whatever. So it's very difficult to do that on the fly. But as you grow in skill, it's the same. If you make a mistake, you keep going, and that's kind of your reset. It's very different from sports and trading. But let's say that you were playing a very fast song and then you finished, and now we're supposed to play the slow song. That's a different state. So if you're still bringing in energy from the previous song, that's not going to be good because you're going to be all hyped up and stuff. And now you have to be relaxed and, slow everything down and do a nice crying guitar solo rather than, doing like super fast riffs and shredding and stuff. So there is a reset, but I would say that's more to do with in between songs as a performing musician rather than completely resetting. But again, it depends on the skill level. If you keep messing up during practice, then you do have to stop and figure out where it is that you're messing up. And even when you're working with a band, that's the same thing. If there's a point in the song where everybody keeps getting wrong and keeps getting to the bridge rather than to the chorus again, there is either something that we're doing where not everyone's on the same page, or we just got the song structure completely wrong. So we need to sort it out before we get back to performance. Otherwise, we're just going to keep repeating the same mistakes. So in a way, there are resets, but more like rehearsal stage, I would say.
I mean, so happy I asked it. You gave a perfect example, and I would debate on in a way, because you mentioned it like you perform a fast track, let's say, and then a slow one, or vice versa. Perfect example. We say we trade from a state, and this is basically you perform from a state. So of course it's different, but you still said you need to reset, recalibrate. You need to recalibrate your mind so your body is not as fast as So very interesting, beautiful.
Yeah.
See, like brain is the brain. So once you understand how brain works, you can apply it to trading. That's why we are doing Neuro Wednesday. So that's it for the day, for the slides. I called it, it's a light content, so I'm happy we didn't take that much time. We can take questions, and I also have like the visualization if you want to do it. I bet it's going to take half an hour max, so we are way in time. So do we want to do a Q&A before, perhaps?
Well, let's see if there are any more questions before we get into a visualization, and then we can kind of wind it up with the visualization, which is becoming a tradition. Let's have a look.
Hold up a second. It's raining. I'm just going to close the window.
Okay. Yep. We had a very rainy day yesterday. Today seems to be a bit brighter, but it's a bit humid. So I've got my window open as well. So
It's like pouring now. And
that was
you're gonna
yesterday here.
hear the nuke alarm in half an hour.
Ah, yes, that's Wednesday. Yeah.
First Wednesday of the month.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time that happened, I was like, "What's going on? Are you under an air raid?" And Jerome was like, "No, it's just how it happens." Like, it's France.
That's
Somehow
hilarious.
I'm always in France, sort of towards the middle of the month, and I've never heard it because we're always taking breaks and vacations, sort of from the 15th up to the end of the month, or close to, for a couple of
Yes,
weeks.
yeah.
So I've never experienced it, and yet I've been to France a lot. That's quite funny. I was like, really? And both Bruno and Jerome were like, yeah, it happens. It's just it happens everywhere. All right, let's have a look. Okay, totally agree. Paul H says, totally agree. Trading is weird. The harder you try, the worse you get. Can definitely attest to that. In the beginning years, you need lots of chart time. Later, less is more. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. And chart time more in the sense of reflection. It's like, how did that say, okay, I messed up setup, but how did it actually play out? Was there anything that I can attach systematically to that particular setup? Either a level, price action, what time frame, how did it look? And then just to keep repeating that. And then once you have that, you'll know what you're looking for. Lenku wants to know, is this session every weekday at the same time or just a one-off? Never thought of checking TopstepTV at this time as I'm in Europe. Lenku, we do Euro Wednesdays every Wednesday, but I do the Euro trade from Monday through to Thursday. Don't know where in Europe you are. If you're somewhere in Jerome's parts, that's the Central European time, so that will start 10:30 a.m. for you. I'm in England, so for me it starts 9:30, a little bit earlier. Wake Up AI wants to know why most of the times when I start trading the day, I get into a drawdown first, then going back up, recovering, and going into a green, lovely day after a few hours. That to me spells that you're trading it slightly too early. Because if the right trade, and here's how you can deal with that. If you know that 90% of the time your first trade of the day is a loser, do it in a practice account or a combine if you're in an XFA. So whatever
Or
account
reverse it.
you you would reverse it. Yeah. That's a difficult thing to do though, because I have that situation. I usually lose my first one because it's almost like a feeler trade. It's like, let's see whether this will play. And then if it doesn't, I'm like, okay, probably need to wait a little bit longer. Go into the external trading platform if you can. So export everything so that you can look at your performance by hour of day. Edgewonk has it. TradeZella has it. Pretty much any serious trading journaling platform will have this in some shape or form. But you want to see your performance by hour of day collated through all of the sample sizes of trades that you've done throughout the day. So, for example, if like I've showed this, I think it was this week, was it Monday? I dragged out my Edgewonk, and it was very, very clear that I suck at initial balance for London, and I also suck at initial balance for NYMEX. Those are like my 2 days where over, hundreds and hundreds of trades, I am generally not positive. But then I have the section from 11 a.m. my time all the way till 1 p.m. where I'm very green. And then I have the prime time of day from my 3 p.m. up to about 5 p.m. So it's not an accident that it comes in 2-hour segments, right? So I just want to point that out to connect with whatever we've been talking about with mental exhaustion. So it's like 2 hours, I hope I focus. Then I suck. But en masse, whenever I try to trade too early in the day, I don't have enough data. And those trades tend to be like the types of trades that I look for, slightly longer chunks of the move for the day. They typically don't occur that early. It's not like we sit down and suddenly you have a trending day. Usually there's a lot of wiggling around. If you do end up in a day where it just starts off really strong and creates a very large candle for the first 30 minutes, typically they tend to fizzle out, and they can be actually good signs of a fake out move before complete reversal. However, those reversals tend to take a couple of hours, 3 hours, sometimes even 8 to 10 hours before they actually start gluing themselves away. So they build volume, they get up to an area, they build volume, it's a distribution, and then what usually comes after distribution by about 70% probability, it's liquidation moves. Now, obviously, there will be differences depending on what you're trading. Like you're trading equities, it's better to look for a big drop, then an accumulation, and then a reversal because they have an upward bias. So it works in the same way, but you have to take in some context. But when I look at my performance, that's what I see. I see first hour, first couple of trades, loss. And then the next 2 hours when I'm awake and I'm keeping focus, so I've got all the data that I need, I perform well. Then I suck for an hour, and then another 2 hours prime performance. What is that? It's not just the levels not working. No, that's losing focus and losing basically clarity due to mental exhaustion. It's nothing else. You can't get away from that.
Exactly.
Somebody's Shay is saying, "Bury the brain has been skipping leg day." Very good.
Excellent.
I like that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that.
All right. Let's jump into the visualization. I am very pumped to do the visualization.
Let's go. All right. So prerequisites for the practice. So for the people who've been with us, you already know it. For the people who've not, today we're going to do a visualization guided practice. So I'm going to invite you through a guided practice and invite you to close your eyes. Whether you feel comfortable or not, you can close them or not. If you don't like this practice, if you feel it's not a fit for you, if you feel it's not something you'd like to practice, it's all fine. We respect you, and we just ask in return that you respect as well the practice, and you respect the people whom for the practice is or would be or could be useful. So yeah, this is a very positive, a cooperative environment. So we hope it will help you, and it should if you practice it well. But yeah, if it's not a fit, we can understand completely. If today is not the right day to settle down, to relax, to focus, we completely understand. But yes, please respect us and the people who practice it seriously. So yes, let's start. So if you want, so you can close your eyes. You can like relax as usual. You can sit down clearly on a chair. You can lie down on the floor, on a bed, on a mat, whatever feels comfortable to you. Just breathe in, inhale through the nose with the belly pulling up, and exhaling with the nose or the mouth, pulling in the belly slightly. And you let the outside fade slowly, gently. You're not disconnecting, like we're not disconnecting, we are arriving. We are doing the total opposite. We are connecting. And so there's a space inside you that is already still, already clear. And you're not imagining it, you're remembering how to reach it. Okay, this is a place that is here, and we are here to understand and know how to reach it faster and better. So all of a sudden, a door appears. It's a simple door, solid door. It's not an escape, it's an entrance, a door entry to, let's call it, a deeper, stronger kind of signal. So you find yourself walking towards it. You place your hand on the handle and you open it, you pull it on, and you step in. And you come in a room that is very wide and open. It's quiet, it's dimly lit, but not dark. And in the center, you have a sort of console that glows with soft pulses. And this console reflects you, not your thoughts, but your signals, not your stories, but your states. So you find yourself curious, you approach, and there is no need to do anything. You just approach and you notice couple dials, panels, switches, and you notice, for example, a dial and it's written attention. A dial for attention. You can pull it up, you can pull it down. Is it wide, scattered? You have another one for urgency. Is it glowing? Is it humming or still? A gauge for tension, for example. Is it subtle? Is it dense? Is it strong? Is it low? And you have a rhythm, a sort of rhythm for inner timing. Is it flowing? Is it rushing? And then you can find your fingers hover and you test modifying, changing the consoles. And with each gentle touch, you can see, feel, especially feel, something changes. You don't control it, you tune it. You tune your attention, you tune your clarity, you tune your presence, you tune your calmness, you tune your urgency, you tune your tension, you tune your inner timing. So it's not magic. You're not calming down. You're just returning to precision, to alignment. So you breathe slowly, you take your time, and you feel or not the shifts as they move, as they ripple. Not dramatically, but precisely. And when it feels complete or not, but when it feels improved, there's a new path that reveals itself. In the continuation of this room, there is a path that reveals at once. And there's like a hallway, a corridor, and you start to know what these corridors are. So this hallway stretches out before you. There's a soft light, no sound, bare sound. It's not heavy, it's clear, honest. And on both walls, you have frames that begin to appear. And again, these frames, they are not images from dreams. They are moments from your life. So they could be a trade that went against you. That could be a moment you betrayed your own plan. That could be a time someone made you feel small or bad or ashamed. That could be a voice of doubt that still echoes. So you look at them, you walk slowly, you don't flinch, you don't indulge, you observe. You simply observe without judgment, with simple non-judgmental awareness. And this is not about reliving, re-experiencing the moments. It's about meeting what once scared you or put you in a place you don't want to put yourself back in, from a place that no longer fears it. And so you stop in front of one image, you remember it, and you remember the spiral, you remember the meaning you gave it. Perhaps it's hard. Perhaps today it's hard to relive or re-experience the moment, but that's not the goal, right? You stop in front of one image, and here's the truth. Memories are flexible when we revisit them from a new emotional state. From today and from previous weeks, we know that every single memory event is connected to an emotional state. We can rewrite the emotional weight connected to the memory. You cannot rewrite the memory, the event. You cannot change the past, but you can definitely change, modify upon the emotion carried away and connected to this memory, to this event. So just breathe. Breathe in, take a deep breath, inhale, and let yourself stay here. Not to fix it, just to re-see it. What if the failure wasn't a verdict, but a vector, a vehicle? What if the emotion doesn't define you, but rather informs you? You don't need to rewrite history again. You only need to change how your system holds it. And slowly you you might or not, again, feel the weight fading. The weight fades, not because it's disappeared, and it doesn't disappear, but because you did the work to carry it differently. You are carrying it differently. So then, after this hallway, this corridor, there's a sort of circular space that appears, like a sort of chamber made of signal. Okay, you whatever signal represents to your mind, like in mental imaging, there is a chamber made of signal. You enter, and here you are not shown success. You are shown stress. Whatever is in front of you is stress plus plus plus. You have huge loss, you have missed opportunities, you have moments of regrets, moments of failures, moments of collapsing. You have times you couldn't stop over trading. You see them in this room of signals. In this room, you're not shown success. You have all of it in front of you, around you, surrounding you. And yet you are not activated. You take a deep breath, you inhale, and you're ready. You're ready. It unfolds like a scene. But this time you remain grounded. You're still here. You don't move. You remain grounded. And there's a deep pause. And this pause is not hesitation, it's clarity. You have so much noise in this chamber, you observe it, and by breathing, by marking a pause, you are able to respond differently. You feel the surge and you respond differently. So you can name the moment, you can breathe with it, but you decide, you don't react, right? You can watch what happened. If it's hard enough to breathe in, then try to breathe in harder. But if it's too hard, then just observe and focus on observing and breathing. And what we are doing here is, again, neuroplasticity in real time. You are rewiring how you react and how you perceive and digest events inside of your mental. And the networks, the circuits that once spiraled and went everywhere, they now sense a sort of alternative path, a second way, and they take it. Your neurons, your synapses are taking it. You are building it. And this is how your future self is built. Not by preventing breakdowns, but by creating new patterns inside them. And then you have a final room that opens, and this one is soft, simple, still. We could call it timeless. You enter, and instantly the space holds you. There is no screen, no scene, just energy, resonance. You sit or float or simply be, stand up. You're just there. And this is not imagination, it's recognition. So this is where you meet your new identity and your past one as well, if you want to. And you can have sentences, positive and strong sentences, rise in you. I act from alignment. I am wired to adapt. I regulate. I don't react. I am clear in chaos. My edge is presence. And you can let words rise, emerge. You don't force them. They are not affirmations. They are not like mantras. They are not magic sentences. They are not goals. They are simple truths remembered when you are not scrambling for safety. So let them anchor. Let them get in. Let them echo through your breath. Your edge is presence. You regulate, you don't react. And doing this you are precisely recording identity into sensation, recording identity into sensation. And that is exactly where change lives. And you can stay here for a few more moments, and you can let it go from an idea to knowing, feeling, recognizing. You can hear this echo, and you keep breathing in, deep inhale, and you exhale. And perhaps you can find yourself not necessarily focusing on your breath, but you are in the moment. And you will be able to come back to this room. And now you can feel, or not again, the shift before it's even visible, because the shift comes from within, right? So all of a sudden, the space around you, it fades. But the signal you felt, okay, the signal remains. You are not returning to your day, okay? When we will come back from this practice, you are not returning to your day. You are returning with this new state. And you carry it into your planning, your execution, your stillness, and your recovery. You don't need to hold on to it. You've set it up. You've installed it. So walk through the final door. There's a final door in front of you. You walk through it. You take a very deep breath. You feel the room you're physically in. And whenever you're ready, you can stretch yourself, stretch your arms, your legs, and take a deep breath. And whenever you feel it, you can open your eyes, and not just to see the world again, but to meet it differently. And welcome back.
Okay, well, you can pour me into a bowl again. That's interesting.
What was that?
I said you can pour me into a bowl.
Oh.
Yeah, what I really liked about this visualization is the different buttons where you can regulate different parts that are heightened. That resonated with me the most. Because I like that. I did something similar back in the day with a negative inner critic, where people say, oh, you know, there's a volume of your inner critic, and then you just kind of put it down. But I went a step further, because that didn't work as well. But somebody suggested to me that I give it a voice that is so ridiculous. So I decided to give it the voice of Beaker from Muppets. I don't know whether people know who that is. If you don't, type in Beaker Muppets and you will see. It's basically the character that's like, me, 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 me. And it's a very ridiculous character. So by doing that, you, yeah, you know who it is. And by doing that, you effectively devaluate whatever that inner critic has to say. And I feel that this exercise is kind of similar, where you have different wheels for heightened negative states, and then you just adjust it like kind of the music or music mixer. So I used to do a lot of production stuff. So that really resonated for me, because I imagined the buttons were on like a mixing desk, and each of them had its name. So it was beautiful. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
All right. Do we have any questions here?
I don't know. Do we have feedback? Some people are saying it's like a video game, like a Dungeon and Dragon campaign.
Yeah, it is. You know, you can look at it that way as well. You can look at it as going through different levels in a video game. We are leveling up skills. We're leveling up mental skills. Why not liken it to leveling up in a video game? It's not a video game, it's life. But I can see that can be a pretty decent analogy. Alex says, I am driving. Yeah, definitely don't do visualizations while you're driving.
Yeah. I mean, I strongly disadvise doing mindfulness driving.
Yeah. But, save it for later. And then when you're not driving and you're at home, try to repeat the visualization.
Can I prank call people to relax?
Prank call people. That would be a very nice prank, though.
Yeah.
You just call them up and go, today you will be walking into, into a room where knobs. Yeah. You
People
can.
loved it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the
Yeah.
feedback, everybody. Love that. It was a great session. I mean, if it were up to us, every single segment of the visualization, I would make them last longer, right? So let's say you are in the console room, that would be very nicer to be like 10 minutes more in it, and
Yeah.
work more on that. But it's hard timing wise, so that's why we don't do it. But yeah, feel free to replay these, and with time, once you master the script, let's say the practice, then you'll be able to make it longer yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's when things get more interesting.
Yeah. Identity shifts are not talked about enough in trading. We're all focusing on charts and levels and strategies, but really, the real holy grail, if there is one in trading, is going to be mindfulness and learning how to regulate. That's certainly been the case for many of my colleagues and myself as well over the years. But I will say that it never stops. Like, you never stop regulating. You get better at it and more aware, but there will always be times when life is happening or when you feel really stressed out, and it's very beneficial to then go back and repeat some of the visualizations that pertain to you. GWiz is saying, Jerome, will you be trading on fast markets again anytime soon? I think I saw you on the schedule, didn't I?
Yeah, I will be on reversal challenge on Friday,
Right.
and
Good.
not on fast markets, but in 2 weeks, I think you guys will be the first ones to know it. In 2 weeks, we have a wonderful and special session organized by Topstep, merging Dr. V and Dr. J. So Dr. Vanessa and Dr. Jerome, and we'll do a
Ooh,
operative first session, and then if people like it, feeling, yeah, of course, we'll work on doing more.
brilliant. I'm looking forward to that. I am such a geek for anything psychology related, anything neuroscience related, because it fascinates me, right? It fascinates me that we have
So
this
Bruno
like
said,
illusion of, yeah, we have an illusion of free will, but it's not real. Like, in my opinion, we don't exactly have as much free will as we think we have. It's all a matter of circumstance, our life experience, and it's almost our job to correct certain things that have brought us to this current state. And there's always a reason. So thank you, Jerome, so much for doing this for us again. Beautiful session. As always, we're going to be putting the slides up in the Topstep Discord on the Trading Psychology channel. If Bruno can put that link in for everyone, and of course, since Danielle is creating the playlist for us, there will be a separate playlist on Topstep channel with all of the neuro sessions in it. So that's it for today. Jerome, any final words before we sign off?
well, thank you very much, as always. Thank you to the chat and the audience. Take care of yourself, and as always, love the people who love you the most, and take care of them. And have a great week.
Lovely. This has been the Neuro Wednesdays on TopstepTV. My name is Marcus Okadi. That's Dr. Jerome. We will see you again very soon. In the meantime, take care.
Bye bye.